YouTube Nation, Man Vick TV, aka me TV, aka the Cult Python. So when I say I got this, and today I got this because you know what? ESPN has gone a little too far. That's right, with the bumping their gums, and we're gonna get into this. You know what? I'm gonna bring back the bomb. That's like the Broad Street bomb. I'm gonna bring that one back just for them. We'll call that event classic. But before I get started today on them, we have a lot to talk about. We're gonna start off with the Philadelphia Flyers and Ilya Bryzgalov. Now, before I get started, I want to say it's 60 degrees and I'm going out balling after this. So I'll upload this video either before or after I get back. I'm not sure, depending on the time, you know, how much time I have. Also, want to say, if you hear any noise out there, they're doing some type of construction or whatever. So I'm trying to get this out before the hysteria starts. So let's get into this real quick. Philadelphia Flyers, Ilya Bryzgalov. It's time for Breeze to go. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, over the weekend, his comments have they've gotten worse and worse. All right, let's just say it how it is. All right, Ilya Bryzgalov came out first and said that he is the scapegoat. That's right, he's the scapegoat for the reason the Flyers are losing. The same guy who said he didn't have any confidence in himself earlier this year now says he's the scapegoat. All right? Now, that's not all. No. Afterwards, Bryzgalov has said that he has to find peace in his soul to play in Philadelphia. Yeah, so you can see how these comments are going. It's like, okay, this guy, he's teetering onto the point where fans aren't going to care anymore. And then he went over the line. He crossed the line. He went over the edge. Ilya Bryzgalov came out and said that Philadelphia Flyers fans care too much. We care too much. Do you understand that, Flyers fans? We care too much. Now, look, it is a backhanded comment, but you have to be kidding me to say that a fan base cares too much, all right? I mean, if that's what you're going to say, Ilya Bryzgalov, then you just told us exactly what Phoenix Coyote fans are, meaning they don't care enough. That's what you just did. So not only did you piss off Philadelphia Flyers fans, now you done pissed off Phoenix Coyote fans. What's wrong with you? You complain that you didn't have enough help in Phoenix. Now that you're getting all this help, you still can't get the job done. If you want people to stop booing you, because that's what happened. They booed him off the ice at the Penguins game. All right, that's where his complaints are coming from. If you want people to stop booing you, then guess what? Earn your keep. It's that simple. Earn it. I'm not trying to hear this anymore and always complaining, woe is me, and oh, no. Do your job. You're getting paid $51 million. What's the problem? And I want to talk about this because last night they played the Winnipeg Jets, and what happened? Ilya Bryzgalov gave up 4 goals. All right? That's not the norm here. You don't do that. But I want to talk about this a little bit because we've seen the trade rumors and everything. I don't understand why they would think, because now they're trading some of the young guys. You know, remember, this was about getting younger. Remember that? But now we're seeing all these guys come in. Like I said, the hypocrisy of the Flyers, really, you have to really pay attention to what's going on in that front office. You do. But I'll put it like this. They talk about getting Nash from the Columbus Blue Jackets to come in here. And I'm thinking to myself, why would you go get an offensive player? Yes, Nash is good. I'm not complaining about that. But he's an offensive player. We need defense and goaltending. I don't understand this. This makes no sense. Our offense has put up enough points. The problem is they have to keep digging themselves out of holes because of the goaltending. And that's not just Breeze. It's also Bob as well. He's had a bad stretch of games as well. But you have to understand, if you look at how our defense has played as of late, they've actually been doing a good job. They have, all right? They've had more block shots a game than the goaltenders take on goal. It makes no sense. And last night, I put it like this. The third goal that they scored, the Winnipeg Jets, when Buffugly, you know what I'm talking about, when he shot from the blue line, this is something that your D guy can't do, all right? And Voracek, he's playing it against them. He takes the slap shot. This is what Voracek does. Can't do that. Can't do that. Nah. That's unacceptable. Can't do that. Now, look, I understand that Bryzgalov wasn't ready, but he should have been ready. Bryzgalov left a quarter of that goal open for him to score. He wasn't in the right position. That's the problem, all right? If he was playing his angle right, it wouldn't have went in, but it doesn't matter. The Fugly scored from the blue line. Voracek did nothing, and that's what it came down to. It took some heart from the offense to get out there and play the way they did. Bryzgalov was bailed out last night. That's what it was. No way, no how. Play this. Any other time, people would have booed him. And they were making fun of him the whole time in the stands. Ilya. They were chanting. They was getting to that guy's head. This guy needs a therapist. And I understand that we're going to get, bigger D guys. That's what we're making trades for. But it doesn't matter how big you make these guys. He's still not stopping anything. I mean, seriously, how big do they have to be before he decides he wants to start playing? It's the second half of the year. What? Come on, guys. Now, look, we can still get into this, all right? We can still come back from this, but the team has to play hard. Now, understand that a lot of you people, you want Chris Pronger back. Look, it's not going to happen. He's done for the year. He's not going to be ready for playoffs. He's done. For those who don't understand what's been going on, his wife came out earlier, was it last weekend? last weekend came out, for the Flyers Wives Fight for Lives Carnival against cancer. She came out and said that Chris Pronger is fighting for his life, just to get his life straight, because he can't get himself together, all right, let alone play hockey. So you have to understand, he's got serious personal issues going on. And I'll put it like this. Next year, you got to get rid of him next year. You do. At his age, with that contract, you have to get rid of him next year. You take the C off him next year. Don't do it this year, because as reports are saying, this guy's so depressed, he's 1 second from jumping off a bridge somewhere. You take the C away from him now, and it's going to push him over the edge. You can't do that, all right? But I'm just saying, next year, you got to make some moves for that guy. You really do. And I understand that the cap space and things of that nature, I know people will say, the cap space, what are you talking about? You have to understand, guys, that the way the NHL is working these days, you really have to watch your money. You do. That's why we were making all these moves, you know what I mean, in the offseason to bring in Brizgalov. That's why. You really have to watch your money when it comes to front office. I said, if you're not paying attention to what's going on in the front office of the Flyers, you'll be lost. All right, to see all the propaganda they put out, to see all the BS that they put out, and make you believe that this is still a team that can go all the way. Man, I'm telling you, unless we catch some fire, we will not catch the Rangers. And last I checked, the Pittsburgh Penguins, because they beat the Rangers, they're up on us in the point standings now. So, yeah, it's going to be a problem. It really is. And I'm getting real tired of seeing our players getting high stick, too. Something's got to be done. You want them to wear shields, and guess what? They're still wearing shields, and yet they're still getting high stick. It doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter. I understand it's part of the game, but don't sit here and tell me that you're trying to make all these restrictions and all these new rules in NHL, and this stuff still happens. If that's the case, there was no point having those, new rules. There's no point. There really isn't. Either you have to start enforcing it, or you have to start penalizing guys a lot longer. All right? You really do. Something. Because from what you see, if you saw the third period of the Jets-Flyers game last night, it was getting nasty. And it almost felt like it was done. When Scotty got hit in the face, it felt like it was purposely done. And those guys were looking around like, yeah, we got him. It was disgusting to see that type of, nastiness come out of a player. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, he didn't do it purposely. But if you saw the smirk on his face afterwards, it was like, you got to be kidding me. That's what said it for me. It wasn't the fact that, it was done intentional. It was his reaction afterwards when you saw his face. That's what bothered me. Now, I need to move on. Flyers, you have a lot of work to do. You really do. I want to move on to the Sixers, the 4-loss streak Sixers. Now, you guys have sent me a lot of mail about the Sixers, and a lot of you guys made a lot of sense. You want Iguodala gone. You want to trade him for Ellis. I don't have a problem with that. And the way you saw the new lineup, you broke it down. It makes sense. You said that Meeks shouldn't even be on the floor, and I agree, because this guy is a liability to the team. And it's funny because Malik Rose and Zumov come out and say, well, Malik Rose has scored 1 3-pointer in every game he's been in, this season. So, he's a spot shooter. That's his job, to shoot from the arc. You going to tell me if he doesn't make a 3-pointer that it's going to be a big deal? That's not the problem with Jody Meeks. The problem is he's soft when he tries to slash, when occasionally he slashes to the hoop, right? And his defense, it is atrocious, and it is hurting us. Now, I need to talk about this, because you talked about Iguodala. He didn't score a point in the second half at all last night, and yet this guy got an all-star nod? You got to be kidding me. And play this. Sixers fans are saying he's the MVP of the team. No, he's not, all right? This guy averages a little under 13 points a game. I'm not trying to hear his steals or his transition or his defense. Look, his defense is good. You want to give him props for his defense, then you put him on the all-defensive team. That doesn't mean he makes an all-star game. If you look at his stats compared to everyone else, or you look at his presence compared to everyone else that's going to be in an all-star game, he doesn't match up. He was only picked, as far as I'm concerned, because he's never been to one. That's what it comes down to. And if you notice, we're seeing all these new guys step into the frame, guys that wouldn't be put in the all-star game, since, in a regular season, since we have a short season. It's kind of odd to see. But if anyone should be getting an all-star nod, it shouldn't be Iguodala, it should be Lou Will. That's who it should be. But I understand why Darren Williams was picked before Lou Will. I can definitely understand. It's not about team record. Look at what that guy's doing over there, and that's really pretty much what you got to look at. It is. I'm just saying. But the Sixers are having so many problems now. You guys said that running transition offense is not going to stay all year, and I agreed, and it's starting to break down now. Teams are catching on, and they're trapping them in a half-court set, and they can't do anything. That's what it comes down to. You need bigger guys if you were going to play this straight-up ball with everyone else. We're getting killed in rebounds and second-chance points in the paint, but doesn't matter at this point. And it's funny because all the bandwagoners that was jumping on the Sixers, we've only lost 4 games in a row, and already they're walking away. They're walking away. At the Spurs game, they couldn't. I was talking to people that I know who work for the radio stations. They couldn't even give away tickets. They couldn't give them away. All right? And it was so bad that they had to go to Groupon to try and sell tickets. But speaking of bandwagoners, Knicks fans, I have heard your every cry about how this Jeremy Lin Super Lintendo, we're going to talk about this phenomenon in a minute, all right? But how the fans who weren't fans before have already stepped up and tried to be the #1 fan. And it's funny you say that because speaking of bandwagoners, I have a nice little clip that shows the epitome of a bandwagoner when it comes to, we'll just say, New Yorkers or Jeremy Lin.
Hey, so I've been hearing a lot about this Jerry Lin guy on Twitter, and I think he plays for the Giants, and the Giants just won the Super Bowl, so congratulations to the Giants and Jerry. Well, so I really like winners, and I really, really like black guys, and so Jerry, if you're out there and listening, I would like to invite you to be my date for my sorority formal.
Now look, when I first saw that, I had thought to myself, that's fake. She's just putting on an act. But after seeing more comments and reading stuff about it, it's legit. You've got to be kidding me. And that's what I mean about a bandwagoner. It's horrible. Is she cute? Yeah, she cute. All right. But don't tell me Jerry Lin. Jerry, come on. You gotta be kidding. You like black guys? Come on. This has gotten out of hand already. And look, we're going to talk about Jeremy Lin. Because first off, Jeremy Lin, I want to say this now, all right? Am I a fan? Yes, I'm happy for Jeremy Lin because of what he's been through to get in this league. He has shown that if you work hard enough and you want it bad enough, you'll get it. That's what it comes down to. He was given an opportunity, and what happened? He took advantage of it. That's how I see it. That is a great thing. Now, here's the problem with Jeremy Lin. Turnover machine. And I put like this because a lot of people keep comparing him to Darren Williams and Steve Nash and all these because of the running, the run and shoot, pretty much running gun, I should say, offense. No. If you're going to compare him to anyone, you compare him to Russell Westbrook because they play the same exact style. It's a point guard who has no problems pulling that trigger. That's what it comes down to. And you say, well, what about Derrick Rose? No. Completely different player. He's a little bit more collective than Jeremy Lin or Russell Westbrook. You have to understand, when they're on the run, that's it. All right? These turnovers are killing him. Now, look, I'll put it this as a point guard. If you're having that many turnovers a game, if you're losing games, he's already benched. He's already benched. There's no way your point guard is going to give up 8, 9 turnovers a game. That's ridiculous, all right? And I understand his late game heroics has been something that a lot of people like to see, especially in Toronto when he made that last shot. But you have to understand, he had 8 turnovers, all right? He caused that problem. So he's getting himself out of that hole. That's what you have to pay attention to. Now, I will say this, all right? He is a good player. He can possibly be a great player if he keeps applying himself. But you have to put the right players around him and let him run the offense. That's what you have to do. You can't slow this guy down, all right? Now, I will say like this. He is still learning the system, which if you ask me, it's not much of a system because it's D'Antoni, all right? I'm going to say it as it is, all right? But I will put it like this. The guy can excel if you put the right pieces around him. And if you let this guy penetrate more often, and like I said, you have a Tyson Chandler, you have an Amari Stoudemire, you'll be fine. You have Melo, he likes to sit out on that baseline and that wing. So I put it like this. You have a good amount of options. Now there's talk about bringing in Baron Davis again to start over Jeremy Lin. Now, I know a lot of fans I've seen so far are upset about this. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if you always start the better player, and if Baron Davis isn't ready, then you keep Lin. If Baron Davis has shown in practice that he is more than prepared and he's ready to play and he's better than Lin, technically you start him, all right? Because then you can use Lin coming off the bench as a second spurt of energy. That's what you can do. But it also depends on who you use. I don't know why you guys still have Landry Fields. I really don't. Douglas needs to sit down. I mean, some of these guys that I see on this team are just like, what? How did they even make pro ball? Seriously, Landry Fields, if you put him in a right situation, he can shine every once in a while, but he's just not consistent. He's not at all. And like I said, now I start to see, now that they're throwing a lot more games here, and I can see them, I'm starting to see what the Knicks fans see. And I can definitely understand why you're so angry. But because of this, this phenomenon with Jeremy Lin and Linsanity, look, there's only one sanity, and that's Vinsanity with Vince Carter. I'm not calling him Linsanity, all right? I'll call him Super Lintendo or whatever else you want to call him, all right? But it's gotten to the point now where it's become tiring, but now it's backfired. And for those who know what I'm talking about, ESPN has put out quite the racy article saying there's been a chink in the armor. But even before that article ran on ESPN, Floyd Mayweather came out himself and tried to use the race card. Now, it's funny because remember when I did the video about Mayweather and Pacquiao and I said, race has been used so much in boxing as a selling point that you should be used to this by now. And I'm not saying that I condone it, but you should be used to it because this is what Floyd's bread and butter is. And all these people came in and tried to destroy me. I mean, just went off on me. It's racist. You're racist. And I was just trying to tell you how the boxers use racism to sell. Well, now it seems ESPN is backing me up on it.
But it wouldn't be a part of it if he couldn't play. If he were a scrub and he got cut, wouldn't be like, oh, Jeremy Lin's the first Asian American player on the end of the Knicks bench. He's playing. That's all we're saying is that Floyd Mayweather's comments, you're much more articulate than Floyd Mayweather. We know that. His comments were stupid. Yeah. He's entitled to his opinion, but it was stupid.
But to say stupid is to act as though he just pulled something up that has absolutely no basis. But this is not without basis. This is not without some measure of merit. So to just dismiss it, I'm not going to.
But the hype isn't just because he's Asian. Right. Because he's playing. That's what he wasn't on the team last season.
But if you want to reduce it to any one thing, we're going to say that that's wrong. Right. So if we reduce it to New York, that's wrong also. But ain't nobody about to get all heated about it. The reality is Floyd Mayweather makes his money inflaming people on the basis of race. This is what he's been doing his entire career. This is basically what boxers that are like him have to do in order to make a lot of money. And he's done it again, and he knows that's what he's doing. So when he says, I'm speaking for NBA players, no. He's speaking as a guy that knows how to inflame people and get it going.
But he's not alone.
But I'm not going to sit here and pretend as though there's nothing to it.
I want to know where all those people are at now. I want to know because you're so quick to jump on me. Now that you've been proven wrong, I'm sure you'll run away with your tail between your legs like a little punk. Because that's what y'all do. There's a difference between people on here who know what they're talking about and others who think they know what they're talking about. Or just some who are just looking for a fight and being idiots. And speaking of idiots, we're going to talk about this right now about ESPN. Because on ESPN First Take, Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless actually try to defend the writer who made that racial article.
Very serious topic coming up here. It is a part of the Jeremy Lin story that wasn't exactly feel good. ESPN became part of the story over the weekend when a headline writer was fired for using the phrase chink in the armor to describe the Knicks' first loss in the Jeremy Lin era. An ESPN anchor was suspended 30 days for using the same phrase. 2 points of clarification here. The writer claims that it was an honest mistake, and the anchor says that insists, in fact, that the offending word was unintentional. He has apologized. Stephen A., you believe there is a bigger issue at play here. What's the point you want to make?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to comment about, what our employers decide to do. We work for them. It's not our place to do that. I mean, when they let me go, when they didn't renew my contract a few years ago, I didn't comment about me. So I'm certainly not going to comment about anybody else. Let me say this, though. At some point in time, the black community has to recognize that we share a level of culpability in any kind of incident like that transpires. Because the heightened sensitivity that exists in our society today, we are in large part, we have a lot to do with that. As my man Skip Bayless and I have talked about over the years, there's never an excuse for somebody, in a very derogatory fashion especially, to use the N-word. There's just no excuse for it. We understand what it means. We understand the historical perspective of that, right? But there are a multitude of other things that we have classified as racially insensitive. Mm-hmm. Some of the leaders in the black community have done so, and I'm not sitting there and calling them out as if they were wrong. I understand whether you're a Reverend Al Sharpton or Reverend Jesse Jackson. I was just with Maxine Waters, representative out of California years ago, who I love dearly. The issues that they fought, they grew up in a different time. They lived in a different time, and there's a level of sensitivity that they harbor because they know what it means, and they've experienced some of the things people of my generation have not. Right. However, that heightened level of sensitivity has had a contagious effect on other communities. So suddenly everybody is sensitive about a lot of different things because they're saying, well, if the black community gets to be ultra sensitive about anything that could be perceived as race, we may not even be sure. We might think it. And because of that, it becomes something that generates a shrapnel of criticism and controversy, and ultimately we're touching on it in such a fashion, then you have people from the white community speaking up and saying, wait a minute, what about what we find offensive? Mm-hmm. All right, you have people from the Hispanic community. What about what we find offensive? Now you've got folks from the Asian community. What about what we find offensive? And the list goes on and on. And here's what has happened. We're in an unforgiving society now.
What Stephen A. Smith doesn't understand is that those ethnicities have always been racially oppressed. They just didn't have a voice until now. You have to understand the new generation actually speaks up, Stephen A. But I will talk about this a little bit more. We'll start with the Asian community. Now, I'm going to go back to my martial arts roots on this one, all right? Because I can sit here and tell you the story about Bruce Lee, all right? I'll put it like this. When Bruce Lee, when he started, all right, and he was playing the Green Hornet, he's playing Kato, right? They wanted him to keep the mask on. Granted, it's part of the character. But they had said, if you did more research, they want him to keep the mask on because they didn't want to make it look like that an Asian person was saving a Caucasian person at the time. That's what happened. He even created Kung Fu, the series Kung Fu, yeah, and they took it from him. And what happened? They gave it to David Carradine. That's what happened. We've seen time and time again in the entertainment industry then, I'm not saying now, but then, all right, that we saw Caucasians play Mexicans. We saw them play Native Americans. We saw them play Asians. I mean, they had the entertainment industry on lock. That's what happened. And it's sad that you would even think that this is something that doesn't exist. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I'll talk about this a little bit more because Hispanics, we talk about this right now, all right? Because the food industry, for those who don't know, Tyson Foods, they were sued by Hispanics because they were going across the border and getting illegal immigrants and bring them back over to work in their bad condition shops. The employees were gassed by their products. All right, you have to understand, especially the Arizona thing is going on where they can stop you now if they think you're an illegal immigrant. So they can stop anybody and just say, let me see your ID, which is, it's even if you're an American citizen. That's horrible, Stephen A. It's sad that you would even think that it would be okay for you to downplay such an important issue. You should be ashamed of yourself with your arrogance.
Regardless of what you want to sit there and say, we don't have to talk about this or whatever. There are other instances in our lifetime in America where people have lost their jobs. They've lost their livelihoods. I'm on the record. I don't believe Jimmy the Greek should have been fired years ago. I've always said that. He was off the air, he was in a bar, he was inebriated, and somebody stuck a camera in front of his face, and because of that, 30 plus years of a career down the drain. We're unforgiving.
Jimmy the Greek, that's who you gonna hang your hat on? Jimmy the Greek. You know what? Let's get into this. For those who don't know what happened with Jimmy the Greek, I'm gonna read the quote of why people thought it was a racial remark, okay? So let me get out my iPad. I have this set up for y'all. Check this out. Jimmy the Greek says, this is what he said. The black is a better athlete to begin with because he's been bred to be that way, right? It says, because of his high thighs and big thighs that go up into his back, and they can jump higher and run faster because they're bigger thighs, and he is bred to be a better athlete because he goes all the way back to the Civil War. It says, when during the slave trading in the big, and this is ... the owner, ... it says, the slave owner would, this is would breed his big back, it says, to his big woman so that he could have a big black kid, see? That's what he says, okay? Now, you want to say he's drunk? Fine. Because as we know, most people, as we all know, drunks tell the truth as it is, but it varies from person to person. But this is what Jimmy the Greek says afterwards, once he, after it was recorded. He says it was a foolish thing to say. That's all he said. It was just a foolish thing to say. There is no excuse. He doesn't make an excuse for himself. Stephen A., you're the only one making excuses and trying to perceive them as fact, when the fact is, you don't have anything for your backing the show.
And I'm looking at a black community and I'm saying we make up approximately 13 to 14% of the American population. Mm-hmm. Okay? You look at the Census Bureau reports, it says that by the year 2039, the black population will increase by 1%. The Hispanic population in this country will double. Wow. When you look at it from that standpoint, we're in danger of becoming an endangered species. Okay? So when you look at it from that perspective, you have to get to a point where you don't erase what you're sensitive to, okay? But you have to be forgiving from the standpoint of, if somebody apologizes genuinely, let's try to be a bit more forgiving, because if we're not, then other people are not going to be so forgiving when something goes down with them, whether it's the ethnic groups or whether it's the homosexual community and what they perceive as offensive. And suddenly people are losing their jobs, they're losing their careers, they're losing their ability to provide for their families and all of this stuff. And why? Because somebody made a mistake.
What perspective? What don't you understand, Stephen A? The numbers that you throw out there about being an endangered species shows no proof or correlation to the insensitivity of others. And how do you know it was a genuine apology? Look, it's really this simple, Stephen A. The guy tried to be a smartass and use it as a headline and got caught. Make no mistake about it.
We got to be careful about having an absence of compassion. You can say what you want about me. I sit on these airwaves across from my man here, and we call it like we see it. But it is rare in the day when somebody can look in my face and tell me there's an absence of compassion, that I want somebody's career to be over, that I want somebody to lose their job or their ability to provide for their family because of a mistake. And it emanates from a level of sensitivity that we harbor that, dare I say, sometimes is just not justified. The N-word, that's flagrant, we know what that is, particularly when it's white on black because of historical context. You know not to do that. But there are some other instances, white community and other communities, where black folks classify something as a racial issue that I quite honestly don't find justified. And that's got to change. That's what I wanted to say.
Yes, Stephen A., I agree. There are times that the race card is used too much. ESPN is one of the main offenders, and we'll talk about that later. But what I hear what you're saying is there needs to be change. Okay, that's fine. But what is your layout plan for a solution? Because I don't hear one. All I hear is you just saying it just needs to be changed. That doesn't help any, all right? It almost feels like you just like to hear yourself talk. And you know what? Judging by the rest of this video, what you say, it's pretty much the truth.
It is strong. That is big and insightful of you to acknowledge. And I appreciate that enlightenment because I hadn't thought of it quite that way.
Enlightening and insightful? Are you serious? Skip, you just proved to us that you don't think very well and that you don't have really that much experience in the outside world. And you've only spoke for 5 seconds.
Can sensitivity sometimes become oversensitivity? Maybe, but I will take oversensitivity compared to undersensitivity any day of the week because I think it's a painful but necessary process we all have to go through.
Now, I want you guys to remember that part, as it will be key later in Skip's discussion.
I know in my younger days as a columnist, I wasn't sensitive to some factions, what they found offensive. And I was shocked, like, really, that's offensive? Right. But if any group perceives your humor, my humor, as offensive, then we should just stop it. We should eradicate it. Because even if we're saying we speak fondly, we're kidding because we love, doesn't work. If you're offended by it in your group, in my group, where I'm from, the state of Oklahoma, some people get offended by being called Okies. I do. I take that very offensively because of the Steinbeck Graves of Wrath. Okay, you probably have no feel for that whatsoever, but I take it deeply. I'm really deeply.
So you're saying we need to be oversensitive just so we recognize everybody.
So Skip says they should stop if people find it offensive. Yet, on his Twitter, people have said to him time and time again to stop with the racial topics, and he keeps doing them. Mind you, on ESPN First Take, the way the format goes is they have a meeting before the show goes on so they know what they want to talk about. They have the power to shoot down any topic that they don't feel they need to talk about that day or want to talk about that day. Let's keep going.
So I don't disagree with a single word that you just said, but there's a bigger problem. And the bigger problem is that, Skip, sometimes, and this is what bothers me, and that's why I felt the need to say what I just said, there are some things that people don't know is offensive. I mean, I don't know the list of things that are offensive to the homosexual community, to the black community, to the white community, to the Hispanic community, to the Asian American community. I don't know. Right. Now, if you tell me that it's offensive and I ignored you and do it anyway, all bets are off. But if I didn't know, I didn't know. I remember when the whole Rush Limbaugh controversy came out years ago with what he said about Donovan McNabb. My issue with him wasn't what he said. It was once he was told why it was offensive, his unwillingness to initially apologize. Right. Don Imus, same thing. Look, man, it was a joke. I understand that, but do you understand how that resonates? Once you're told, okay, then you should be given that initial opportunity to apologize. And if you do, and you're sincere, let's move forward, because the bigger issue is this. Black folks don't make mistakes. You make mistakes all the time. So what happens if you don't hit? If there's an absence of sensitivity and there's an absence of compassion, then obviously people are going to switch it to us. I got white folks out here calling me a racist because they don't like what I said about a particular player or something like that. But I ignore it because I know their fault. But why do I ignore it? Jay, I'll come up to you. Skip, I'll come up to you. I'll come up to numerous white folks that I know that are my friends, and I'll be like, excuse me, how did this sound? Did this come across that way? So what I'm trying to say is that, again, but that's after I came up to y'all. I don't just assume that I'm right.
No, and that's the best thing you can do is actually go to someone of that set and ask them what's offensive.
Oh, so now we want to use the I don't know card. This is getting pathetic. You have to be kidding me. I will put it like this. It is your job as a writer, no, as a journalist, to do your research before you print out something, to make your final print. Am I correct? You don't ask people after you've done something. No, you ask them before so that your information is accurate and non-offensive. That's what you do. So you just proved to us that you don't do your job effectively. And so what if you go and ask a couple friends in the workplace how things are? It doesn't make you an expert on the issue, because those friends are probably 9 times out of 10, if you're disconnected from society and they do the same job as you, they're disconnected from society. So it makes no sense of this vicious circle that you keep talking about, and it's really starting to piss me off.
But we're living in a society where people are not getting an opportunity to do that before losing their job.
Let me give you an opportunity here, Steve.
That's tough.
I'll give you an opportunity because I envision that there will be many from your community. There will be blacks that heard your message and won't be happy with it.
Right.
You're probably going to hear from many of them on Twitter. So just go ahead and address all of your critics now, because you know they're going to be out there.
Let me say this to Black America. I didn't say y'all. I said us. I'm a proud black man.
Mm-hmm.
I love my people. And they can sit there and say whatever they want, but you guys know, and people who work with me here, Fox, CNN, anywhere else knows that I come to the defense of my community on many, many occasions in those newsrooms, in the newsrooms of the newspaper and all that. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I don't have to talk about it. I've done it. And what happens is that you don't see a plethora of African Americans having the voice that I have.
What? Hold on, what? You are seriously overrating yourself. I can't believe you just went there. There are young people out there every day trying to get it done and do the same thing, but they don't get the exposure they deserve. I said this last year to the mayor as well. It's people like you, Stephen A., Mr. Community, and the mayor who don't listen to the youth, which pushes them to do other things to get their voices heard, like the documentary. You have to understand, you just proved to everyone just how connected you really are. And thank you for showing that arrogance once again.
This is about uplifting our community. I just gave a speech. The National Alliance of the African American Scholar Athlete over there, receiving a Watkins Award. African American athletes, stellar athletes, all with a 3.5 or higher GPA. I gave a speech, Representative Maxine Waters and others were there this past Saturday in Los Angeles. And I made the point that, you know what? Forget about racism. It's not that it doesn't exist. It's two things. Number one, it's not as prevalent as it once was, all right? And certainly not as overt. But more importantly, it's close to irrelevant from the perspective you can't legislate what's in somebody's heart or mind. And if you focus on that, like a lot of people in my community choose to do, more don't, but there are some of us who do, it has served as an impediment to my community. We got young black kids out here. If you're thinking about somebody and your excuse is race, that is an excuse and a license to exhibit a dereliction of duty, to not go all out, to not do the best that you can, because you've got a built-in excuse. And if you have that, how does that benefit us? That's the truth here. I don't care what black leader you can point to out there. They did not go through what they went through so we could look for excuses. They were trying to fight the good fight to make a fair and equitable system. And it's gotten more and more fair with each passing year. We can't continue to lean on excuses, because clearly our community is suffering more than any other community in the United States of America. And if a black person out there's got a problem with me saying that, you can go kick rocks. I do not care. I love my community, and I'm speaking for my community. I said what I said. I mean what I mean. You can tweet, Facebook. I don't give a damn what you do. It means nothing to me. I stand by what I said, and I didn't stutter.
Hold up, what? Using race as excuse? Oh, let's get something straight. So I just imagine when I went for my first writing job at the Port Richmond Star, when I aced the phone interview and I talked to them properly, when I got there for the face-to-face interview, they told me, oh, we thought you were white because of how properly I talked to them. We had a different image in mind. We can't hire you because we had a completely different image in mind. We can't use you. Yeah, so you gonna tell me all of a sudden I just imagined that? No, it happened. Did I use it as an excuse? No, I kept going and I worked hard to get where I have to. But for you to sit here and say that, oh, you can kick rocks, meaning he's telling you guys you can go to hell. This is the same guy who ignores public outcry. This is the same guy who just said he talks to his sheltered friends, but then says he's for the community. The same community that he's disconnected from, and then tells you that he doesn't care what you have to say. Do you understand what I'm saying, people? It's full of contradictions. But, Stephen A., let's get into this a little bit deeper. Because you go on to talk about how you don't care or whatever. That's fine. Since you want to say, since you already put yourself out there, you pretty much exposed yourself, all right? But if you don't care, instead of taking that stance that you don't care, you think you would try to figure out why there's a public outcry, to come to an understanding why they feel this way instead of going to 2 or 3 friends. See, you're nothing but a caricature of a strong black man. That's what you are. You're a spoof as far as I'm concerned. And it looks like at this point, people can say and look you right in the face and say you have an absence of compassion.
Well said. And let me quickly address your being called a racist after discussions we have on this show. This show has become known for fearlessly addressing racially based topics.
What we do.
Right, that's what we do.
We run from nothing.
And we have healthy, productive discussions that I always learn from. I've learned a lot just sitting here for the past 5 minutes.
I have as well.
And yet, as soon as we have one of these discussions, and I look at my Twitter responses, you're a racist for even bringing up the topic. You're a racist for talking about it. I'm a racist for talking about it. It's what we do. And I hope that I know some people have benefited from what you just said. I know it in my heart. And they know it in their hearts even if they won't acknowledge it. Very strong, girl. Good job.
Now, remember what I said to remember about Skip? Yeah, let's get into this. Be fearless. You really want to say that? Look, no. ESPN uses the race card for ratings. There's nothing fearless about it. People have asked you, mind you, you said you'd stop if people were offended. They've asked you time and time again, including myself, to stop using the race card in discussions because it desensitizes the entire issue. And if you need more proof, I even talked to that coward, Chris Broussard, after one of your racial discussions. This is not about black, white, yellow, red, whatever. This is about green. This is about profile exposure. This is about writers backing writers while blaming the public at large. That's all this is. If you cannot see that, it is a joke. This was a train wreck. And they actually have the nerve to think that this was a good job, which makes no sense to me. The only thing that we learned today is that both of them are arrogant and ignorant. And speaking of ignorance, because Stephen A. Smith, he came out and said that LeBron James is a great ambassador for the game. Let's hear about LeBron's comments about going back to Cleveland.
I don't know. I mean, I think it would be great. It would be fun. Playing for experience again. I had a lot of fun times, like I said, my 7 years here. Can't predict the future. Hopefully I continue to stay healthy. I'm here as a Miami Heat player, and I'm happy where I am now. But I don't believe that out in no sense. If I decide to come back over to the fans, I will accept them.
Wow. Michael Smith, what in the wide world of sports is going on here?
Speaking of Skip, I'm more than sure he wishes he was here to go in on this.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
LeBron James so often is better off seen and not heard. And this is just the latest example of that. You cannot go here. This is clearly a guy who is struggling with the consequences of his decision. Live with your decision and move on. Let it go. Walk away. It's over. And this, I can rule it out for him. This is not happening. And to even entertain this is unfair to two fan bases. He is clearly struggling with living with the consequences of his decision. And that's that everybody's not going to like you. You, if Kendrick Perkins, others have pointed out, he wants everybody to like him and love him and make everybody happy.
He was asked the question, though.
He was asked the question.
You don't have to answer it like that.
That's what I'm saying. You got to be savvy enough not to entertain this. Look, I'm here representing Miami Heat, trying to win a championship. It's great to be home. Cleveland will always be a part of me. It's where I'm from. I love these fans, but I'm a Miami Heat, and I got one goal and one goal on this to win a championship this year. Next question. There you go. That's it.
Thank you, Michael Smith. How many times did I say on this show last season when the NBA happened that LeBron James is better to be seen and not heard? How many times did I say that? All right, but it goes to show you that he doesn't know when to shut up. This is a guy who has media training. He knows what the media is going to do these days. I mean, come on. And I put it like this, because Miami Heat fans are mad, and now Cleveland Cavaliers fans are mad. Because Miami Heat fans are saying, wait a minute, he's talking about going back to Cleveland. He hasn't done anything here yet. And then you got the Cavs fans saying, we don't want you back because of what you did before. You had to leave, and now you're going to try to get a ring and then come back? That's pathetic. That's what they're thinking. So you pretty much pulled a Brizgalov, Ilya Brizgalov. You pissed off both fan bases. You're not going to please everyone. You have to stop. You really do. And on top of this, for those who don't know, he threatens to beat up a heckler in the stands. You've got to be kidding me. This guy, this fan, made a comment about his mom and Delonte West, right? So LeBron turns around and says to him, you know, if it wasn't for security and all this, I'd beat your ass. And the fan says, let's have it. Let's do this. See, the fan doesn't back down. Security has to step in to divide the two. Now, here's the thing. LeBron, you should know by now not to listen to the fans on the sidelines. Jackie Robinson, one of the greatest players in baseball, had to deal with a hell of a lot more than what you had to deal with. And he knew that fighting with the fans would be self-defeating. What is wrong with you? You should know better than this. But when you have people that always kiss your ass, it's kind of hard to tell you anything. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should have saw how the Miami Heat acted. Or I shouldn't say the Heat acted. I should say how Temple students acted when the Miami Heat were on their campus.
I will fuck the shit out of you!
Absolutely pathetic. It is a disgrace that people would act like that over a basketball player. It's not like he's saving the world, all right? But let's get more into this, because about this whole fan thing, all right? Now I'm arguing the fan. Wouldn't it have been more efficient to go after Delonte West, you know, the same guy that he sees all the time now and still hugs, about pretty much poking his mom, instead of the fan saying something? It goes to show you where the priorities are. You know what? I'm done talking about him. I want to move on, all right? I have to say this real quick. Eagles fans, if you don't know, Michael Vick has been voted again, you know, the most disliked athlete. People, get over the dog issues. Get over them. Really, that's simple. Also, I want to move on and say that Asante Samuel has been talking on Twitter about how he's going to be traded. And Eagles fans say, bye, just hope you get a good deal for him. Seriously, Asante, just leave. We don't need you. Leave. Cullen Jenkins also restructured his deal so that he'll be with the Eagles for a while. And it looks like what they're saying right now, because of the restructure, it's possible that wide receiver 10 will be coming back. If you don't know, Plexico Burress has also stepped up again and has said that he wants to play for the Eagles this season. We'll see what happens. As far as I'm concerned, Randy Moss is coming back as well. He can still play. I'm not trying to hear just because he took a year off, he can't play, all right? We saw the same thing with Plex when people say, well, Plex, he's not going to be great. You saw what he did last year, right? All right, like I said he would. You know what? It doesn't matter. I want to move on. I need to talk about this boxing thing real quick. This whole David Haye thing. For those who don't know, I'll put the link in the info bar for you guys, all right? David Haye got into a big fight after the Klitschko fight at a bar, at a brawl, and it's a joke because as far as I'm concerned, David Haye hasn't boxed in I don't know how long. After we saw what happened when he fought Klitschko, he was pretty much flopping all over the place, which was, you know, which kind of fit his, you know, forte because, you know, he retired and became an actor. Now all of a sudden he wants to get back into boxing, and then this is the brawl that happens. Well, there's some talk about over there in the UK how there's possible prison time for both of these guys fighting. I don't know how that's going to go. Anyways, guys, I'm done. I will talk to y'all later. Y'all be safe. I'm out.